Yeah, welcome to the dojo, baby, man. Have no fear, TyKwonDoe is here, man. Y'all know what's going on today. We got the art of seduction. It's been a while since we brought the series back to Twitch and YouTube, you know what I mean? But we're back and we're ready to get right back into the book. We are on the, I want to say, fifth or fourth type of seducer. And this one is called the natural. The last one was the dandy. You know, we watched real life examples. We went and did extra research on the side. These videos are full of all different stuff. It's not just us reading the book. You know, I react to it. I break it down. I explain anything. And, you know, I make the process more unique than if you would have read it on your own. You know what I'm saying? I hope I'm adding a new element to it. So now, to get right into the chapter, let's get right to it. The natural. And I'm changing the view up for this video, so hopefully this one makes it easier to read. It might be bright if you're on your phone or whatever. This shit definitely gonna be brighter, but it should be easier to read this way. Now, intellectual timing. You know what I mean? The natural. Childhood is the golden paradise we are always consciously or unconsciously trying to recreate. The natural embodies the longed for qualities of childhood: spontaneity, sincerity, unpretentiousness. In the presence of naturals, we feel at ease, caught up in their playful spirit, transported back to that golden age. Naturals also make a virtue out of weakness, eliciting our sympathy for their trials, making us want to protect them and help them. As with the child, much of this is natural, but some of it is exaggerated, a conscious seductive maneuver. Adopt the pose of the natural to neutralize people's natural defensiveness and infect them with helpless delight. Sounds like Bobby. Let me go back and make sure this is on loop. Yeah, Chaz, it almost sounds like Casanat, Bobby Shmurda, like that playful light tone energy, which is also masculine at the same time, that enlightens the playful side in the woman that they mess with and talk to. Now, not saying this is perfect. Obviously, each of these different type of seductive types have a different edge to them, which is what we're going to see when we read more and flip to the next page and get into the details of. Now, psychology traits of the natural. Children are not as guileless as we like to imagine. They suffer from feelings of helplessness and sense early on the power of their natural charm to remedy their weakness in the adult world. They learn to play a game. If their natural innocence can persuade a parent to yield to their desires in one instance, then it is something they can use strategically in other instances, laying it on thick at the right moment to get their way. If their vulnerability and weakness is so attractive, then it is something they can use for effect. So, you know, just talking about how children will learn early to be seductive in a sense, in a natural way, in order to get what they want. Why are we seduced by children's naturalness? First, because anything natural has an uncanny effect on us. Hold on. I'm gonna turn off the notice. Since the beginning of time, natural phenomena such as lightning storms or eclipses have instilled in human beings an awe tinged with fear. The more civilized we become, the greater the effect such natural events have on us. The modern world surrounds us with so much that is manufactured and artificial that something sudden and inexplicable fascinates us. Children also have this natural power, but because they are unthreatening and human, they are not so much awe-inspiring as charming. Most people try to please, but the pleasantness of the child comes effortlessly, defying logical explanation, and what is irrational as often dangerously seductive. So this just talks about how a child has a much easier time being seductive or getting what it wants, because it's like, oh, it's a harmless child, oh, whatever, you know, they nod it off. They don't even see that they're being used, or they don't even see that the child is getting what they want. So it's almost like how dogs can, you know, dogs have evolved to have that puppy dog eye feature in order to get what they want. They, you know, they'll cry and complain, and if you yield and give them what they want, then they'll start learning over time that psychologically this is something that they can abuse. They can spam it over and over and over to get what they want. More important, a child represents a world from which we have been forever exiled. Because adult life is full of boredom and compromise. We harbor an illusion of childhood as a kind of golden age. Even though it can be often a period of great confusion and pain, it cannot be denied. However, that childhood had certain privileges, and as children we had a pleasurable attitude to life. Confronted with a particularly charming child, we often feel wistful. We remember our own golden past, the qualities we have lost and wish we had again. And in the presence of the child, we get a little of that goldenness back. So, again, just giving y'all another seductive tip, because it's telling you what is the most seductive part about it is how you make them feel. It's almost like an ecstasy. It's almost like you make them feel good. A feeling that they don't get in their normal lives because, trying to be an adult, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. Their boring everyday life. Now, I always like to connect it to the seductive types we've seen before. And what sticks out to me most in this is that this one is natural. The other seductive types weren't. They were effort that a person went over and above and beyond to show. For example, Cleopatra taking people down the Nile River, throwing grand parties, dressing like a god, or what someone might have conceptualized as a goddess, going out her way to have that seductive effect. Whereas though now with the natural, they're placing that emphasis on the, my energy. I make you feel good. I make you laugh. I make you smile. I make you feel my good energy. You now attribute my seduction to the harmless and let go sort of feeling that you can have around me. I give you a feeling of judgelessness. I'm not judging you. You feel like a child again. Life is free. Life is fun. So I want y'all to compare and contrast that as we go to just to, remember the other seductive types and say, well, what was different? What was the same? So let's keep going. More important, a child represents, I read that part. Natural seducers are people who somehow avoid getting certain childish traits drummed out of them by adult experience. Such people can be as powerfully seductive as any child because it seems uncanny and marvelous that they have preserved such qualities. They are not literally like children, of course, that will make them obnoxious or pitiful. Rather, it is the spirit that they have retained. Do not imagine that this childishness is something beyond their control. Natural seducers learn early on the value of retaining a particular quality and the seductive power it contains. They adapt and build upon those childlike traits that they manage to preserve. Hold on. Make sure y'all can read the whole text. Bada boom, bada bang. Bam. I just read the page. They adapt and build upon those childlike traits that they manage to preserve exactly as the child learns to play with its natural charm. This is the key. It is within your power to do the same. Since there is lurking with all of its devilish child straining to be let loose, to do this successfully, you have to be able to let go to a degree, since there is nothing less natural than seeming hesitant. Remember the spirit you once had. Let it return, without self-consciousness. People are much more forgiving of those who go all the way, who seem uncontrollably foolish, than the half-hearted adult with a childish streak. Remember who you were before you became so polite and self-effacing. To assume the role of the natural, mentally position yourself in any relationship as the child, the younger one. The following are the main types of the adult natural. Keep in mind that the greatest natural seducers are often a blend of more than one of these qualities. So now we're about to get into the qualities. The innocent. The primary qualities of innocence are weakness. This understanding of the world, innocence, is weak because it is doomed to vanish in a harsh, cruel world. The child cannot protect or hold on to its innocence. The misunderstandings come from the child's not knowing about good and evil and seeing everything through uncorrupted eyes. The weakness of children elicits sympathy. Their misunderstandings make us laugh, and nothing is more seductive than a mixture of laughter and sympathy. The adult natural is not truly innocent. It is impossible to grow up in this world and retain total innocence. Yet naturals yearn so deeply to hold on to their innocent outlook that they manage to preserve the illusion of innocence. So kind of like a sort of optimism where you can like love that, like, and have fun with it, but still not be naive, but still believe in what you believe in. So let's keep going. Where was I? They exaggerate their weakness to elicit the proper sympathy. They act like they still see the world through innocent eyes, which in an adult proves doubly humorous. Much of this is conscious, but to be effective, adult naturals must make it seem subtle and effortless, like sort of a part of their personality and how they are anyway. If they are seen as trying to act innocent, it will come across as pathetic or even manipulative for a chat. I'm gonna add that in there. It is better for them to communicate weakness indirectly through looks and glances, or through the situations they get themselves into, rather than anything obvious. Since this type of innocence is mostly an act, it is easily adaptable for your own purposes. Learn to play up any natural weakness or flaws. The imp. Almost sounds like it's trying to say a word that we trying to, you know what I'm saying, that we try not to say on Twitch. I'm gonna take a sip of water real quick. The imp. Impish children have a fearlessness that we adults have lost. Now, if you don't know what an imp is actually a mythical creature. Well, that's what I know it as. The imp is actually like a mythical creature, very small, very like childish and old, plays an instrument. You know, I remember it from a game I used to play. Now listen, that is because they do not see the possible consequences of their actions. How some people might be offended, how they might physically hurt themselves in the process. Imps are brazen, blissfully uncaring. They infect you. So sound just like Bobby Shmurda chat. They infect you. If you've seen that reaction I did to Bobby Shmurda video on a blind date. They infect you with their light-hearted spirit. Such children have not yet had their natural energy and spirit scolded out of them by the need to be polite and civil. Secretly, we envy them. We want to be naughty too. Adult imps are seductive because of how different they are from the rest of us. Again, like looking at Bobby, we were just amazed by his energy. Like, yo, he's crazy. Like, yo, ha 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 ha. But the woman, she was thriving off it. She loved it. And he could switch back and forth. But he had this sort of childish excitement, freedom that he had, to where as though most people, and this can even be learned in teenagers, right? Teenagers and adults and etc. To where you sort of use the judgment of other people. Oh, that's childish. I can't do that. Oh, that's lame. I can't do that. To stop you from how you want to act. And then where Bobby was being childish, playful, wild, Wizard 101, yup. So listen, Bobby was being childish, wild, playful, goofy. All the things that a regular adult or a teenager who's trying to be cool or trying to act cool will stay away from, because they know how people will look at them if they do it. So let's keep going, chat. Adult imps are seductive because of how different they are from the rest of us. Breaths of fresh air in a cautious world. They go full throttle as if their impishness were uncontrollable and thus natural. If you play the part, do not worry about offending people now and then. You are too lovable, and inevitably they will forgive you. Just don't apologize or look contrite, for that would break the spell. Whatever you say or do, keep a glint in your eye to show that you do not take anything seriously. Now we get into the next one. The wonder. We gotta flip the page, chat. Make sure everything is on the page and we're good to go. If you play the part, do not worry about offending people now and then. You are too lovable, and inevitably they will forgive you. Alright, I already read that part, just so I know we finished at the top. I'll make sure the words are going over each other. Since I don't read the bars on the side, I'm gonna just do it like this. You know the side word. The wonder. The wonder child has a special, inexplicable talent, a gift for music, for mathematics, for chess, for sport. At work in the field in which they have such prodigal skill. These children seem possessed and their actions effortless. If they are artists or musicians, Mozart types, Their work seems to spring from some inborn impulse, requiring remarkably little thought. If it is a physical talent that they have, they are blessed with an unusual energy, dexterity, and spontaneity. In both cases, they seem talented beyond their years. This fascinates us. Adult wanderers are often former wonder children who have managed remarkably to retain their youthful impulsiveness and improvisational. Why am I fucking up? Why am I fucking up when there's such a word as improvise? Improvisational skills. True spontaneity is a delightful rarity, for everything in life conspires to rob us of it. We have to learn to act carefully and deliberately, to think about how we look in other people's eyes. To play the wander, you need some skill that seems easy and natural, along with the ability to improvise. If in fact your skill takes practice, you must hide this and learn to make your work appear effortless. The more you hide the sweat behind what you do, the more natural and seductive it will appear. The undefensive lover. As people get older, they protect themselves against painful experiences by closing themselves off. The price for this is that they grow rigid, physically and mentally. But children are by nature unprotected and open to experience. And this receptiveness is extremely attractive and non-judgmental. Chat, the food is aiming this way, so I'm gonna keep checking those notifications and get ready to pause the video. In the presence of children, we become less rigid and infected with their openness. That is why we want to be around them. Undefensive lovers have somehow uncircumvented this self-protective process, retaining the playful, receptive spirit of the child. They often manifest this spirit physically. They are graceful and seem to age less rapidly than other people. Of all natural's character qualities, this one is the most useful. Defensiveness is deadly in seduction. Act defensive and you'll bring out defensiveness in other people. Judgmental, you make you think you're judging them, and they won't be as open to your seduction, or as open with, their sexuality, their desires, or as openly submissive to your seduction to them, because it seems like you're trying to run game. It seems like you're trying to be smooth. It seems like, you know what I'm saying, chat? And that's why, the women will oftentimes say that you're a player. You have O's. You have, what I'm saying? They can catch that you're being smooth and how smooth you are. And there's different ways that you could play that. You could try to make it seem like you're not as smooth. You can double down and embodying that. It all depends on who you are. You know what I'm saying? Alright. Defensiveness is deadly in seduction. Act defensive and you'll bring out defensiveness in other people. The undefensive lover, on the other hand, lowers the inhibitions of his or her target, a critical part of seduction. It is important to learn to not react defensively. Bend instead of resist. Pause. Be open to influence from others, and they will be more easily fall under your spell. Let's get to the next page. Make sure everything on the page. Alright, man. 1. As a child growing up in England, Charlie Chaplin spent years in dire poverty, particularly after his mother was committed to an asylum. In his early teens, forced to work to live, he landed a job in vaudeville, eventually gaining some success as a comedian. But Chaplin was wildly ambitious, and so in 1910, when he was only 19, he immigrated to the United States, hoping to break into the film business. Making his way to Hollywood, he found occasional bit parts, but success seemed elusive, and the competition was fierce. And although Chaplin had a repertoire of gags, a rapport of gags that he had learned in vaudeville, he did not particularly excel in physical humor. And I just realized that the words is I'm blocking some of the words. His role was that of a con artist. In 1914. I missed the part. A critical part of silent comedy, he was not a gymnast like Buster Keaton. In 1914, Chaplin managed to get the lead in a film short called Making a Living. His role was that of a con artist. In playing around with the costume for the part, he put on a pair of pants several sizes too large. Then added a derby hat, enormous boots that he wore on the wrong feet, a walking cane, and pasted on mustache. With the clothes, a whole new character seemed to come to life. First, the silly walk, then the twirling of the cane, then all sorts of gags. Max Sennett, the head of the studio, did not find Making a Living very funny and doubted whether Chaplin had a future in the movies. But a few critics felt otherwise. A review in Trade magazine read, "The clever player who takes the role of a pervy and very nifty sharper in this picture is a comedian of the first water, who acts like one of nature's own naturals." And audience also responded, "The film made money." Ads about to run soon, keep that in mind. What seemed to touch a nerve in Make a Living, setting Chaplin apart from the horde of other comedians working in silent film, was the almost pathetic naivete of the character he played. Sensing he was onto something, Chaplin shaped the role further in subsequent movies, rendering him more and more naive. The key was to make the character seem to see the world through the eyes of a child. In The Bank, he is the bank janitor who daydreams of great deeds while robbers are at work in the building. In The Pawnbroker, another movie he played in, he is the unprepared shop assistant who wreaks havoc on a grandfather clock. In Shoulder Arms, he is a soldier in the bloody trenches of World War I, reacting to the horrors of war like an innocent child. Chaplin made sure to cast actors in his films who were physically larger than he was, subliminally positioning them as adult bullies and himself as the helpless infant. The helpless infant. And as he went deeper into his character, something strange happened. The character in real life, man, began to emerge. Although he had a troubled childhood, he was obsessed with it. For his film Easy Street, he built a set in Hollywood that duplicated the London streets he had known as a boy. He mistrusted the adult world, preferring the company of the young, or the young at heart. Three of his 4 wives were teenagers. God damn, when he married them. God damn. 3 of his 4 wives were teenagers when he married them. You're a victim. More than any other comedian, Chaplin aroused a mix of laughter and sentiment. He made you empathize with him as the victim, feel sorry for him the way you would look for a lost dog. Let's switch the page. You both laughed and cried, and audiences sensed the role Chaplin played came from somewhere deep inside, that he was sincere, that he was actually playing himself. Within a few years after Making a Living, Chaplin was the most famous actor in the world. There was Chaplin dolls, comic books, toys, popular songs, and short stories were written about him. He became a universal icon. In 1921, when he returned to London for the first time since he had left it, he was greeted by enormous crowds, as if the triumphant return of a great general. The great seducers, those who seduce mass audiences, nations in the world, have a way of playing on people's unconscious, making them react in a way they can neither understand nor control. Chaplin inadvertently hit on this power when he discovered the effect he could have on audiences by playing up his weakness, by suggesting that he had a child's mind and an adult body. In the early 20th century, the world was radically and rapidly changing. People were working longer and longer hours at increasingly mechanical jobs. Life was becoming steadily more inhuman and heartless. As the ravages of World War I made clear, caught in the midst of revolutionary change, people yearned for a lost childhood that they imagined as a golden paradise. You know what's crazy, chat? This can kind of explain why. Hold on, my Uber Eats driver said he's here. Alright, chat, I'm gonna pause it. The ad should run in like a minute. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab the food for YouTube. What's going on? How do I feel about this type of seducer? I'm gonna put this in a YouTube video. Well, what I think from what I read so far is that if you are naturally this seduction type, no pun intended, that this can be so easy for you, because especially in this current time period, which is why they use the context of the time period in this example. I think that in this current time period, people are more depressed than ever. People are more, like their lives, like you know how it is, chat, 9 to 5. Everybody hates their lives for. Everybody's depressed. Everybody, like, mental health is off. To have that natural, childlike, energetic, vibrant, recharging person around you can be such a breakaway from your natural life or your everyday that, you know, makes you feel depressing, or thoughts that bring you down. It can be uplifting. It can be happy and exciting to see somebody or be around somebody that makes you feel like a kid again. Because God forbid the last time you were happy was when you was a kid. You know what I'm saying? So that's why this one can be powerful. And this one, unlike the other seduction types, it is purely based off of, like, I mean, I'm not even talking about the other ones. I'm talking about the first two, which was the siren and the I forget what they called it for the man. But on those ones, what was most impressive is the effort that they put in for their, you know, their entire impression on the person. And in this one, it's more so the authenticity that the person gets from them, which is kind of similar to the rake, the demonic rake specifically. So, but let's keep going, Chad. Let's keep going. Daddy issues type B. I mean, imagine. I don't think a girl who has daddy issues and is looking for a father figure would like a natural, but that's just my hypothesis. Let's keep going, chat. An adult child like Chaplin has immense seductive power, for he offers the illusion that life was once simpler and easier, and that for a moment, for as long as the movie lasts, you can win that life back. In a cruel or moral world, naivete, I feel like I'm saying that horribly. Naivete has enormous appeal. The key is to bring it off with an air of total seriousness, as the straight man does in stand-up comedy. More important, however, is the creation of sympathy. Overt strength and power is rarely seductive. It makes us afraid or envious. The royal road to seduction is to play up your vulnerability and helplessness. You cannot make this obvious. To seem to be begging for sympathy is to seem needy, which is entirely anti-seductive. Do not proclaim yourself a victim or underdog, but reveal it in your manner and your confusion. I can't wait to get to that chapter where it talks about all the anti-seductiveness, because a lot of y'all might realize a lot of the things y'all do, which hurt your seduction, not helping. Put yourself in situations that make you seem weak, in which someone else has the advantage. They are the bully. You are the innocent lamb. Without any effort on your part, people will feel sympathy for you. Once people's eyes cloud over with sentimental mist, they will not see how you are manipulating them. 2. Emma Crouch. Born in 1842 in Plymouth, England, came from a respectable middle-class family. Her father was a composer and music professor who dreamed of success in the world of light opera. Among his many children, Emma was his favorite. She was a delightful child, lively, flirtatious, with red hair and a freckled face. Her father doted her and promised her a brilliant future in the theater. Unfortunately, Mr. Crouch had a dark side, like everyone else. He was an adventurer, a gambler, and a rake. And in 1849, he abandoned his family and left for America. God damn! The original My Pops left and went to get some milk. The Crouch, he went to a whole nother country. Chat, just imagine that he ain't had no phone back then. No Facebook, no Instagram, nothing. Like, he just left. The Crouches were now in dire straits. Emma was told that her father had died in an accident and she was sent off to a convent. The loss of her father affected her deeply, and as the years went by, that's karma, ain't it? He left the family and then died in an accident. Ain't that crazy? The loss of her father affected her deeply, and as the years went by, she seemed lost in the past, acting as if he still doted her. One day in 1856, when Emma was walking home from church, a well-dressed gentleman invited her home for some cakes. No, he was trying to get the cake. Whoa. Man invites her over for some cakes. This dude was into some, like, trying to kind of, like, you know. She followed him to his house, where he proceeded to take advantage of her. What the Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Is she this gullible, bro? It's crazy, bro. Any famous serial killer would have had a great time with this, back in the day, man. That's crazy. Some cakes, and she went over there, bro. That's crazy. The next morning, this man, a diamond merchant, promised to set her up in a house of her own. One night he already promised and all this crazy stuff. Treat her well and give her plenty of money. She took the money but left him. Damn. Determined to do what she had always wanted. Never see her family again, never depend on anyone, and lead the grand life that her father had promised her. With the money the diamond merchant had given her, Emma bought nice clothes and rented a cheap flat, adopting the flamboyant name of Cora Pearl. That's tough, Cora Pearl. She began to frequent London's Argyll rooms, a fancy gin Argyll, a Mr. Bignell, took note of the newcomer to his establishment. She was so brazen for a young girl. At 45, he was much older than she was, but he decided to be her lover and protector. Lavishing her with money and attention, the following year he took her to Paris, which was at the height of its Second Empire prosperity. Cora was enthralled by Paris and all of its sights, but what impressed her the most was the parade of rich coaches and the Bois de Boulogne. Here the fashionable came to take the air, the empress, the princesses, and not least the grand courtesans, who had the most opulent carriages of all. This whole last sentence just started fucking me up. This was the way to lead when he went back to London. She would stay on alone. Frequenting all the right places, Cora soon came to the attention of wealthy French gentlemen. They would see her walking the streets in a bright pink dress to complement her flaming red hair, pale face, and freckles. They would glimpse her riding wildly through the Bois de Boulogne, cracking her whip left and right. Basically, she had the type of booty that John going, shaking back and forth. They would see her walking, or whatever, I already read that part. They would see her in cafes surrounded by men, her witty insults making them laugh. They also heard of her exploits, of her delight in showing her body to one and all. Damn. The elite of Paris society began to court her, particularly the older men who had grown tired of the cold and calculating courtesans and who had admired her girlish spirit. As money began to pour in from her various conquests, I'm gonna just skip all these. Prince Napoleon is on the list. Wow, cousin to the emperor. Cora spent on the most outrageous things: a multicolored carriage pulled by a team of cream-colored horses, a rose marble bathtub with her initials inlaid in gold. Gentlemen vied to be the one who would spoil her the most. This is crazy. An Irish lover wasted his entire fortune on her in only 8 weeks. Damn. But money could not buy Cora's loyalty. She would leave a man on the slightest whim. Cora Pearl's wild behavior and disdain for etiquette had all of Paris on edge. In 1864, she was to appear as Cupid in the Offenbach opera, Orpheus in the Underworld. Society was dying to see what she would do to cause a sensation, and soon found out she came on stage practically naked, except for expensive diamonds here and there, barely covering her. As she pranced on stage, the diamonds fell off, each one worth a fortune. She did not stoop to pick them up. She let them roll off into the footlights. The gentlemen in the audience, some of whom had given her those diamonds, applauded her wildly. Antics like this made Cora the toast of Paris, and she reigned as the city's supreme courtesan for over a decade, until the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 put an end to the Second Empire. Oh, the page. My fault, chat. I was locked in. I ain't gonna lie. I'm just literally, as soon as they start describing that chat, who imagined like this whole stage, and then the diamonds, and then the people on the floor, the guys around her in the bar. Like my whole visual aspect just kicked in, chat. I swear to God. Like I literally started there was just a movie in my head just now. Fully locked in. Alright, let's keep going. People often mistakenly believe that what makes a person desirable and seductive is physical beauty, elegance, or overt sexuality. Yet Cora Pearl was not dramatically beautiful. Her body was boyish. What the fuck? Oh my God. And her style was garish and tasteless. Even so, the most dashing men of Europe vied for her favors, often ruining themselves in the process. It was Cora's spirit and attitude that enthralled them. Spoiled by her father, she imagined that spoiling her was natural, that all men should do the same. The consequence was that, like a child, she never felt she had to try to please. It was Cora's powerful air of independence that made men want to possess her, tame her. She never pretended to be anything more than a courtesan, so the brazenness that in the lady would have been uncivil in her seemed natural and fun. As with a spoiled child, a man's relationship with her was on her terms. The moment he tried to change that, she lost interest. This was the secret of her astounding success. You know what's crazy, chat? Something I just thought of right here that I didn't think of during like a bunch of the other seductive types. One seductive type might have a direct like yin and yang to it. Not a yin and yang, but like a like I can't think of it, chat. Like a predator and prey. Like because she doesn't care and she seems more challenging, it might excite a rake, which is another seductive type, to want to seduce her more. Because imagine that, and if you didn't read, you didn't pay attention with us while we were reading the prior types, or you're new here, I have all of this on YouTube in order, you know what I'm saying, in a playlist. But imagine like a rake would be more enticed to seduce her because nobody can, and she's harder to seduce. And then, like, I don't know, polar opposites attract. That's just something I just thought of randomly while reading this, but I'm not going to go too much into it because it might distract from, you know, what we're getting into. So I'm gonna go right back into reading, chat. But just keep that in mind. Where am I? Of course, powerful. A man's relationship with her on her terms. The moment he tried to change that, she lost interest. This was the secret of her astounding success. Spoiled children have an undeservedly bad reputation, while those who are spoiled with material things are indeed often insufferable. Those who are spoiled with affection know themselves to be deeply seductive. This becomes a distinct advantage when they grow up. According to Freud, who was speaking from experience since he was his mother's darling, spoiled children have a confidence that stays with them all their lives. This quality radiates outward, drawing others to them in a circular process, making people spoil them still more. Since their spirit and natural energy were never tamed by a disciplining parent, as adults they are adventurous and bold and often impish or brazen. The lesson is simple. It may be too late to be spoiled by a parent, but it is never too late to make other people spoil you. It is all in your attitude. People are drawn to those who expect a lot out of life, whereas they tend to disrespect those who are fearful and undemanding. While independence has a provocative effect on us, it appeals to us while also presenting us with a challenge. We want to be the one to tame it, to make the spirited person dependent on us. Half of seduction is stirring such competitive desires. Example number 3. In October of 1925, Paris society was all excited about the opening of Revue Negre. BLM. Jazz, or in fact anything that came from Black America, BL fucking M, bruh, was the latest fashion, and the Broadway dancers and performers who made up the Rev Negre were African American. Okay, never mind, chat. Never mind. On opening night, artists in high society packed the hall. The show was spectacular, as they expected, but nothing prepared them for the last number, performed by a somewhat gawky, long-legged woman with the prettiest face, Josephine Baker, a 20-year-old chorus girl from East St. Louis. She came on stage bare-breasted, wearing a skirt of feathers over a satin bikini bottom, with feathers around her neck and ankles. Although she performed her number called Dans Ça Va. I just need to learn French at this point. Dans Ça Va. With another dancer. Do I need to flip the page? My fault, chat. Every time they get real visual, chat, I could just literally imagine this shit, bro. So I literally just be the art of seduction. Yo, chat, I need to learn French at this point, bro. Alright, let's keep going. Hold on, let me double check I'm not 2 pages behind. No, I'm good, chat. I'm good. With another dancer, also clad in feathers, all eyes were riveted on her. Her whole body seemed to come alive in a way the audience had never seen before. Her legs moving with the litheness of a cat. Her rear end gyrating in patterns that one critic likened to a hummingbird's. As the dance went on, she seemed possessed, feeding off the crowd's ecstatic reaction. And then there was the look on her face. She was having such fun. She radiated a joy that made her erotic dance oddly innocent, even slightly comic. By the following day, word had spread, a star was born. Josephine came from the heart of the Negre. In Paris was at her feet. Within a year, her face was on posters everywhere. There were Josephine Baker perfumes, dolls, clothes. Fashionable French women were slicking their hair back a la Baker, using a product called Baker Fix. They were even trying to darken their skin. Holy copycat. Such sudden fame represented quite a change, for just a few years earlier, Josephine had been a young girl growing up in East St. Louis, one of America's worst slums. She had gone to work at the age of 8, cleaning houses for a white woman who beat her. Damn. She had sometimes slept in a rat-infested basement. Damn. There had never been heat in the winter. Damn. She had taught herself to dance in her wild fashion to help keep herself warm. Okay. In 1919, Josephine had run away and became a part-time vaudeville performer, landing in New York 2 years later without money or connections. She had some success as a clowning chorus girl, providing comic relief with her crossed eyes and screwed up face. But they just said she was pretty. She hadn't stood out. Then she was invited to Paris. Some other black performers had declined, fearing things might be still worse for them in France than in America, but Josephine jumped at the chance. Despite her success with the Revue Negre, Josephine did not delude herself. Parisians were notoriously fickle. She decided to turn the relationship around. First, she refused to be aligned with any club and developed a reputation for breaking contracts at will, making it clear that she was ready to leave in an instant. Since childhood, she had been afraid of dependence on anyone. Now, no one could take her for granted. This only impresarious. Excuse me. I've never seen this word in my life. Impresarious. On anyone. This only made impresarious chase her and the public appreciate her more. Second, she became aware that although black culture had become vogue, what the French had fallen in love with was a kind of caricature. If that was what it took to be successful, so be it. But Josephine made it clear that she did not take the caricature seriously. Instead, she reversed it, becoming the ultimate French woman of fashion, a caricature not of blackness but of whiteness. Precarious. No, it was a whole nother giant. Impresarious. Alright, hold on, chat. You check the time. It's like about 4 minutes before ads run, so I gotta remember to look up to the side. So I pause it when the Twitch ads run. Everything was a role to play. The comedian, the primitive dancer, the ultra stylist Parisian. And everything Josephine did, she did with such light spirit, such a lack of pretension, that she continued to seduce the jaded French for years. Her funeral in 1975 was nationally televised, a huge cultural event. She was buried with the kind of pomp normally reserved only for heads of state. From very early on, Josephine Baker could not stand the feeling of having no control over the world. Yet, what could she do in the face of her unpromising circumstances? Some young girls put all their hopes on a husband, but Josephine's father had left her mother soon after she was born. Rain all one, blood twice. And she saw marriage as something that would only make her more miserable. Her solution was something children often do. Confronted with a hopeless environment, she closed herself off in a world of her own making. Oblivious to the ugliness around her, this world was filled with dancing, clowning, dreams of great things. Let other people wail and moan. Josephine would smile and remain confident and self-reliant. I want to pause and say this. I want to pause for this right now. This sort of self-dependent happiness contributes to her being a natural or seducing people, because since she is her own source of happiness and joy, no matter what the circumstance is. Even in a country where they judge her for being black and that's not good, they love to caricature and clown her, she can even still find the joy and happiness within that. Alright, we're back from a long ad break. Let's start at the paragraph from the top again. A child loves to plan to create a little self-contained world. When children are observed in make-believe, they are hopelessly charming. They infuse their imaginings with such seriousness and feeling. Adult naturals do something similar, particularly if they are artists. They create their own fantasy world and live it in as if it were the real one. Fantasy is much more pleasant than reality, and since most people do not have the power or courage to create such a world, they enjoy being around those who do. Remember, the role you were given in life is not the role you have to accept. You can always live out a role of your own creation, a role that fits your fantasy. Learn to play with your image, never taking it too seriously. The key is to infuse your play with the conviction and feeling of a child, making it seem natural. The more absorbed you seem in your own joy-filled world, the more seductive you become. Do not go halfway. Make the fantasy you inhabit as radical and exotic as possible, and you will attract attention like a magnet. Example number 4. It was the festival of cherry blossom at the Heian court in late 10th century Japan. In the emperor's palace, many of the courtiers were drunk and others were fast asleep, but the young princess Oboruzukyo, the emperor's sister-in-law, was awake and reciting a poem. What can compare with a misty moon of spring? Her voice was smooth and delicate. She moved to the door of her apartment to look at the moon. Then, suddenly, she smelled something sweet, and a hand clutched the sleeve of her robe. "Who are you?" she said, frightened. Next page. Make sure it's lined up well. Alright. "Who are you?" she said, frightened. "There's nothing to be afraid of," came a man's voice, and continued with a poem of his own. "Late in the night we enjoy a misty moon. There's nothing misty about the bond between us." Without another word, the man pulled the princess to him and picked her up, carrying her into a gallery outside her room. Sliding the door closed behind him, she was terrified and tried to call for help. In the darkness, she heard him say a little louder, "It would do you no good. I am always allowed my way. Just be quiet if you will, please." Now the princess recognized the voice and the scent. It was Genji, the young son of the late emperor's concubine, whose robes bore a distinctive perfume. This calmed her somewhat, since the man was someone she knew. But on the other hand, she also knew of his reputation. Genji was the court's most incorrigible seducer, a man who stopped at nothing. He was drunk, it was near dawn, and the watchmen would soon be on their round. She did not want to be discovered with him. But then she began to make out the outlines of his face, so pretty, his look so sincere, without a trace of malice. Then came more poems, recited in a charming voice, the words so insinuating. The images he conjured filled her with her mind, and distracted her from his hands. Oh, I gotta flip the page, chat. Do I gotta flip the page? And she could not resist him. Oh, no, I'm on the right page. I'm tripping. As light began to rise, Genji got to his feet. He said a few tender words. They exchanged fans, and then he quickly left. The serving women were coming through the emperor's rooms by now, and when they saw Genji scurrying away, the perfumer's robe lingering after him, they would dare approach the sister of the emperor's wife. They smiled, knowing he was up to his usual tricks, but they never imagined he would dare approach the sister of the emperor's wife. In the days that followed, Obo could only think of Genji. She knew he had other mistresses, but when she tried to put him out of her mind, a letter from him would arrive, and she would be back to square one. In truth, she had started the correspondence. Haunted by his midnight visits, she had to see him again. Despite the risk of discovery and the fact that her sister Kokoden, the emperor's wife, hated Genji, she arranged for further tryst in her apartment. But one night, an envious courtier found them together. Word reached Kokoden, who naturally was furious. She demanded that Genji be banished from the court, and the emperor had no choice but to agree. Genji went far away and things settled down. Then the emperor died and his son took over. A kind of emptiness had come to the court. The dozens of women whom Genji had seduced could not endure his absence, and flooded him with letters. Even women who had never known him intimately would weep over any relic he had left behind, a robe, for instance, in which his scent still lingered, and the young emperor missed his jocular presence. And the princesses missed the music he had played on the kodo. And Obo pined for his midnight visits. Finally, even Kokoden broke down, realizing that she could not resist him, so Genji was summoned back to the court. And not only was he forgiven, he was given a hero's welcome. And the young emperor himself greeted the scoundrel with tears in his eyes. Wow. Timothy Chalamet in the flesh back in the day, man. Himmy Turner and him Jong-un. It's crazy. Let's keep going, chat. The story of Genji's life is told in the 11th century novel, The Tale of Genji, written by Murasaki Shikibu, a woman of the Heian court. The character was most likely based on a real-life man, Fujiro no Kurchika. Indeed, another book of the period, The Pillow Book of Se Shunagon, first French, now Japan. Oh my god, bro. Chat, this book is just not my friend, bro. This is just don't fuck with me. Was born in the wrong country. Describes an encounter between the female author and Kurachika and reveals his incredible charm and his almost hypnotic effect on women. Genji is a natural, an undefensive lover, a man who has a lifelong obsession with women but whose appreciation of and affection for them makes him irresistible. As he says, Obo in the novel, I'm always allowed my way. This self-belief is half of Genji's charm. Resistance does not make him defensive. He retreats gracefully, reciting a little poetry, and as he leaves the perfume of his robes trailing behind him, his victim wonders why she has been so afraid, in which she is missing by spurning him, and she finds a way to let him know that the next time things will be different. Genji takes nothing seriously or personally, and at the age of 40, an age at which most men of the 11th century were already looking old and worn, he still seems like a boy. Whoa, what the fuck? Hey, yo. His seductive powers never leave him. Human beings are immensely suggestible. Their moods will easily spread to the people around them. Chat, what did I tell y'all in my most earliest videos? Whatever though. In fact, seduction depends on mimesis, on the conscious creation of a mood or feeling that is then reproduced by the other person. But hesitation and awkwardness are also contagious and are deadly to seduction. If in a key moment you seem indecisive or self-conscious, the other person will sense that you are thinking of yourself instead of being overwhelmed by his or her charms. The spell will be broken. As an undefensive lover, though you produce the opposite effect, your victim might be hesitant or worried, but confronted with someone so sure and natural, he or she will be caught up in the mood. Like dancing with someone, you lead effortlessly across the dance floor. It is a skill you can learn. It is a matter of rooting out the fear and awkwardness that have built up in you over the years, of becoming more graceful with your approach, less defensive when others seem to resist. Often people's resistance is a way of testing you. Catch that. And if you show any awkwardness or hesitation, you not only will fail the test, but you will risk infecting them with your doubts. Catch that. Often people's resistance is a way of testing you. And if you show any awkwardness or hesitation, you not only will fail the test, but you will risk infecting them with your doubts. Let's keep going, chat. Let's keep going. Let's keep going, man. Let's keep going, chat. Come on, man. So being nervous is not just, oh, you're nervous, you fumbled the bag. In that same moment that you was bitching, that you was nervous, a guy who knows what he's doing would have showed her that all through his poise. And if you don't know what poise is, you gotta watch my videos on poise. I think I only made videos on that on Patreon. Not a money grab, but it's just a coincidence, right? However, that's where you win. In moments where other men lose is where you win and show how different you are. And in fact, especially if it's a badder woman, a woman who has a lot of options, a lot of men, she will test you more. But in fact, these aren't tests because you'll just show her who you are anyway. If you're a loser, you don't know what to do, you're scared, That's exactly how you act. If you know what you're doing and you are confident, and determined to finish and get what you want, that's exactly what you'll do and how you'll act. So that's the result that you'll get. I don't make the rules. Don't make the rules, man. Just break the rules. Listen, dangers. A childish quality can be charming, but it can also be irritating. The innocent have no experience of the world, and their sweetness can prove cloying. In Milan Kunder's novel, The Book of Laughter and Forgetting, the hero dreams that he is trapped on an island with a group of children. Soon their wonderful qualities become intensely annoying to him. After a few days of exposure to them, he cannot relate to them at all. The dream turns into a nightmare. He longs to be back among adults, with real things to do and talk about. Because total childishness can quickly grate, the most seductive naturals are those who, like Josephine Baker, combine adult experience and wisdom with a childlike manner. It is this mixture of qualities that is most alluring. Society cannot tolerate too many naturals. Given a crowd of Cora Pearls or Charlie Chaplins, their charm will quickly wear off. In any case, it is usually only artists or people with an abundant leisure time who can afford to go all the way. The best way to use the natural character type is in specific situations when a touch of innocence and impishness, you don't know what that word means, we read it in the earlier part, and impishness will help lower your target's defenses. A con man plays dumb to make the other person trust him and feel superior. This kind of feigned naturalness has countless applications in daily life, where nothing is more dangerous than looking smarter than the next person. The natural pose is hold on, I'm gonna stop right there and say, you know what? What's crazy that we try to always be cocky and arrogant and bold, and we always try to prove ourselves to the next person. But do you ever realize how that may hurt you or backfire? So let me keep reading. You don't know what you don't know. The natural pose is the perfect way to disguise your cleverness. And I'm gonna make this extra point. If you are really intelligent, you're really strategic about how you move and what you're doing, why you do it. Your ignorance, or the fact that you don't know or seem like you don't know, or playing dumb, play a sucker to catch a sucker, you're already doing it on purpose. You're not embarrassed to seem dumb, or you're not embarrassed to play dumb. So therefore you don't compensate your insecurity to try to seem smart and play smart and try harder. But let me just keep going, chat. But if you are uncontrollably childish and cannot turn it off, you run the risk of seeming pathetic, earning not sympathy but pity and disgust. Similarly, the seductive traits of the natural work best in one who is still young enough for them to seem natural. They are much harder for an older person to pull off. Cora Pearl did not seem so charming when she was still wearing her pink fluency dresses in her 50s. The Duke of Buckingham, who seduced everyone in the English court in the 1620s, including the homosexual King James I himself, goddamn, was wondrously childish in looks and manner. But this became obnoxious and off-putting as he grew older, and he eventually made enough enemies that he ended up being murdered. Damn. As you age, then your natural qualities should suggest more the child's open spirit, less an innocence that will no longer convince anyone. And just like that, we finished the natural. The next one is the coquette. Any questions, chat? Like I said, after every time we read, I open the questions up to chat, because like I said, somebody watching this on YouTube might not be able to ask it in the comments or get a one-on-one call, whatever the case may be. So after everything we just read, anybody that paid attention to it the whole time, you know what I'm saying? The vibe finna be up. It's gonna be on YouTube. It's definitely gonna be on YouTube. Summary. This describes people who can balance fun and maturity, but they do it on purpose. So they lean more towards the fun, the joy, the childishness, which makes it seem naturally which makes it seem naturally like they don't care. They have this free spirit. They don't care. They don't judge. They just do what they want to do, and they be how they are. Great example of this was, like I said, that Bobby Shmurda Kashnot video I reacted to. Bobby is like 28, or I don't know how old Bobby Shmurda is. I might be completely off. I think he's like 28 or something like that. And he was so childish, happy, lit, excited. The average man or even person acts how they're supposed to, not how they want to. He was acting as childish as he wanted, playful, excited, loud, all over the place. Meanwhile, somebody else would stop themselves from acting like that because they're judging how people would judge them. They don't have enough freedom to do that and confidence. And it's that exact confidence and freedom which was described in this as seductive. Alright, chat. Surely not everybody can pull off the natural, right? Same way with each different chapter. It truly has to be you. You can't pretend to be one of them. For example, if I'm a rake, I can't be a natural. No. If you're really good, you can play you could play both sides of the ball. That's chat. Any athletes in here? Isn't that what's said about football, right? Right? Or just think about great basketball players. Great basketball players just don't have a good shot, or they're good in the post, or they're good at dunking. A great basketball player, they can stick defense. They got height. They got hops, like they can jump high, they can dunk. They can switch it up. And then on top of that, guess what? Forget them playing. Their game IQ. They know plays. They can adjust during the game. They can empower their team and motivate other players. So this metaphor I'm saying of playing both sides of the ball is the same thing with all these seduction types, because a quarterback has to be good at offense, right? But a quarterback that knows more about defense is now a better quarterback. Which is why quarterbacks can be so good at reading coverages and all that shit, because it helps them be offensive. So when I'm thinking of when you say a rake can't be a natural, only a poor rake or a bad like you should be able to. Now listen here, it could work both ways. You could be really good and specialize. You can specialize, which people tend to do it at the higher levels, which is specialized. I only play this one position. I'm not doing any other positions. I'm not doing any roles. But it's a difference between specializing and having the flexibility as an athlete to play around the spectrum. So I'm a rake, so I can go deep. I can have a deep discussion, and I can have this intellectual conversation and take her and change her mind on another level that she's never had from a man. And that is what seduces her. But while I'm having this deep conversation as a rake, I also have this natural level to me, which is also seductive. Tiny Joe, what's good, Melt? What's good, Melt? Chat, let me know if that makes sense. I'm in the YouTube video right there. You know what I'm saying? Dojo to the moon to Saturn, and we leaving the solar system. The links when you know we exist. Bait.